So, did you try it? Did you try the little pec drill that I gave you in last week's video called Training the Pecs? Did you find that a 30-second drill did more to help you get your pecs involved in pressing movements than any other video you've ever watched on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or anywhere else? If so, leave it in the comments. And if you want to just say, hey, Lyle's right, those are the 3 words I love to hear. Let's get started. So in the era of the fitness industry that overcomplicates every exercise and analyzes everything to within an inch of its life with content done by experts who never did any of the stuff that they are telling you must do, you'll get a 45-minute video that will mainly act to confuse you, to complicate things, to make your life harder. These people are not here to help you. They're there to keep you confused and watching for their next secret so they can get YouTube ad revenue. Well, that's not who I am. As anyone who's been following the Mr. Mike Israetel debate has realized, I'm right. I've been right for 2+ decades. I will continue to be right. So what I'm going to do is take some videos that I normally only put in my Facebook group, because honestly, they are the only people that I care about. And what I'm going to do is look at some very basic exercise techniques, things that I've learned over the years that actually work, things that I use with everyone that I coach, things that I use myself, things that will actually get you better results, because people who have done them get better results. But importantly, none of it is overcomplicated. None of it is moronic exercise advice involving fucking joint angles like the shit from Kasem over at N1. This is all basic biomechanics and applied lifting techniques that will help you get better results by better targeting the muscle. Importantly, I'll do it all in just a few minutes with each video. Because here's a good rule, guys. If you understand something, truly understand it, you can explain it simply. When you watch a video by one of these talking heads that's getting into joint angles and resultant torques and all that shit that I can absolutely bore you with, it's because they don't understand it. Or rather, it's because they're trying to get a 30-minute video to work the algorithm. Well, I'm here to help. Try these techniques. They're easy, they're quick, and they work. And then you can come back to the comments section and go, hey, you know what, Lyle? I wish I'd listened to you years ago. But you can listen to me now. Now let me make it real clear. Everything I'm going to talk about in this series of videos is for hypertrophy, muscle growth only. It's not to do with performance. It's not for powerlifting. That's a completely different thing. This is specifically for muscle growth. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so today, let's talk about training the calves. Brief anatomy, the calves are made up of 2 muscles, the gastrocnemius, which is what gives the calves its diamond shape, and the soleus, which is the bit that sits underneath the gastroc and doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. I would say visually, the gastroc is what's going to give the calves most of its shape. Like, yeah, having a wider soleus, or soleus, depending on if you're of Latin or Greek preference, will help with width. But as we're going to talk about, the soleus is probably relatively harder to make bigger than the gastroc, but that's all you need to know. Functional anatomy. No joint ankles, no torques, no multipennate muscles. You don't need to know about any of that shit practically. Talking to you, talking heads. If you watch a video and they start blathering about that, turn it the fuck off. Come watch this. So the calves. I mean, what's up with that? The calves are usually considered one of the most stubborn muscles in the body, and there's a generalized belief that if you genetically don't have calves, you'll never have them. And I want to briefly address why, because there's lots of different ideas, and I think there might be something to one of them, but I think there's a bigger issue, which is actually the topic of the video. So one argument you'll hear is that, oh, the calves are slow twitch, and that's difficult to grow those muscles, but that's not true. The gastrocnemius is predominantly for jumping and running, and it is at least as fast twitch as any other muscle in the body. Now, the soleus is type 1, right? It is predominantly a postural muscle, what they used to call a tonic muscle as opposed to phasic muscle. And I did come across this weird study one time that compared to the quads, the soleus shows like 200% less protein synthesis in response to training. So there's probably an argument to be made for the Miscellaneous that fiber type is part of it, but for the gastroc, that argument just doesn't hold. So the second argument has to do with androgen receptor density, right? The androgen receptor is where the testosterone binds and causes all the good testosterone things to occur. And at least in men, androgen receptor density tends to be highest in the upper body and sort of goes down as you come top to bottom, right? This is why when guys take gear, they get yoked, right? Their traps and delts have a lot of androgen receptors, so they blow up, right? And that distribution is what gives men sort of, that classic wide shoulder V shape. And that's also why probably proportionally it can be difficult for men to grow bigger legs, although most that's just men being too much of babies to train legs hard. But by the time you get to calves, yeah, there probably is a lower or lowest androgen receptor density. And I would argue that in women frequently see the opposite. Like women tend to have a much more difficult time growing their upper bodies on average, and their legs and calves are often much larger. So there may be something to that. But I think the biggest issue is simply that people train calves like shit. That's the problem. It's not so much genetic as people training calves ineffectively or ineffectually, depending on how pretentious you want to sound. And I say that because I know people that have reported getting no calf growth toiling away for years until they found an article I wrote several years ago called Training the Calves. This video is just the video version of that. And as soon as they started doing exactly what I'm going to tell you, their calves started growing. So I dare say that that's part of the problem. Now, I think in that vein, it's worth looking at some of the ideas you come across in the history of calf training. One idea is that, the calves get a lot of work walking and shit during the day, ergo they need a lot of work. You got to do tons of volume. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like Dorian Yates in a great reel pointed out, like if they already get a lot of work, you don't get more growth by giving them more work. And most of the work they get is piss-ass low intensity. It's got fuck all to do with training, right? That just doesn't follow, right? Another one you used to see was like, you need extremely high reps for calves. And I think some of that came out of fiber typing. And there used to be this gibberish statement that was applied to the forearms too, that the calves needed more work because they were dense muscle. And I don't even know what the fuck that means. It'd be like sets of 100 to get growth and shit like that. And God, who has that kind of fucking time? I can barely count past 8 with losing track on an average set. I'd never make it to 100. But I think that idea comes directly out of what I'm going to talk about next. So let's talk about kangaroos. So when I wrote my original article, I'm pretty sure I did it mainly because I could have an article that I talked about kangaroos. Why is that relevant? So kangaroos are good at jumping. They're extremely good at jumping. In fact, when kangaroos jump at a certain tempo, their muscle only generates 8% of the force. That's why they have such great endurance. They can jump forever. Their muscles are barely working. Well, then what is working? Well, their Achilles tendon, right? The Achilles tendon is what attaches the calf underneath the foot. And it is designed in all species that have one to one degree or another to store elastic energy and then recover it. It's like when you jump, right? If you're doing a vertical jump and you go down and up, you go higher than if you go down, sit, and then jump. It's why a touch and go bench press is easier than a paused bench press. This applies to all muscles. All tendons in all muscle groups store and recover elastic energy, but the Achilles tendon is especially good at it, and it is evolved especially in the kangaroo. Their Achilles tendon is doing 92% of the work, so their calves are only doing 8%. Now, in humans, ours isn't that good. Our Achilles tendon to develop. It helps with running. It helps with walking. It's to make it more efficient. All these super shoes from Nike basically are being designed to store and return elastic energy. It's free force. It's basically providing greater propulsion without greater muscular force. Powerlifting gear like bench press shirts, squat shirts, and deadlift suits do the exact same thing. By loading them up, they generate force as you turn around, so you can lift heavier weights. The human Achilles is not as good as the kangaroos, but ours is still good at that. And this sort of leads into the issue is that how do most people train calves? They go bouncy, 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 bouncy. And what are they doing? They're basically relying on the Achilles to store and return force, which means their muscles are doing less. It's why every dude with skinny ass pencil calves can bounce the fucking stack. They're not using muscular effort. And I think that's where the 100 rep sets come from. If you're doing bouncy calf raises, and let's say in humans, I don't know what the numbers are. Let's say our Achilles is generating 50% of the force. That's a made up number, pedants. Don't get in my ass in the comments. That means your muscles are only generating 50%. That means you would need at least twice as many sets. If your muscles were only doing, say, 10% of the work, and they're not, that would mean you would need 10 times as many reps. 100 reps to get the same training effect. So what is the implication of this for training the calves effectively? And some of you have probably already figured out what it was. And the implication of this is very simple. Stop fucking bouncing your calf raises. To force the calves to do more work, you have to allow that elastic energy that's being stored, what's called the stretch shorten reflex or stretch shorten cycle, between every repetition. And that means taking a dead pause at the bottom of every repetition. Now, how long it needs to be is probably up to debate. As you'll see, I recommend 2 seconds. And probably the only person I've ever seen recommend this, Dante Trudell of Dog Crap Training, who's very smart. He recommended 15 seconds between reps, but again, who's got fucking time for that? We're going to go with 2. So if after every repetition you come down, pause 1001, 1002, to allow that elastic recoil to dissipate, your calves will be doing more, if not all, the work. Again, it's the difference between a 2-second paused bench press and a touch and go or, sternum chest bounce bench press. That pause will take about 10% off your bench, as powerlifters who run into strict head judges at meet often find out the hard way. But that's it. That's the simple solution, is stop bouncing your fucking calf raises. Here's how a proper set of standing calf raises, that's the only thing I have a video of, and this is me doing it, should look. And then I'll talk about a couple other things. So here's me performing a set of standing calf raises to failure. And yes, my left calf is much smaller than my right due to a leg break many years ago that never recovered. But what you see is from a dead stop, explode up onto my toes, squeeze, controlled descent, 1001, 1002, up, squeeze, control down, 1001, 1002. And what I'm doing between reps to time it out in my head is at the bottom, I think 1001, inhale, explode on every repetition. And it's real simple. It's just that. And I'm going to go ahead and run the set to failure. But this is what a proper standing calf raise should look like. And this is true regardless of what tempo. Some people prefer a slower concentric on the way up, and that's fine. But always slow eccentric, 2-second pause at the bottom. And you can see me getting close to failure. And I believe that's... Okay, I'm going to grind out one more. Notice bar speed is slowing. Hi, Mr. Mike. And I believe that's it. And that's it. 2-second pause at the bottom, whatever speed concentric you prefer, slow eccentric, that's it. Try a set like that. Take about 20% off of what you normally do. Your calves will be screaming after 8 to 10 repetitions. You don't need 15, you don't need 50, you don't need 100, because now your calves are actually doing the work. Now, I don't have a video of it because I don't do seated calf raises, but the same concept holds. I typically use a little bit slower speed in both directions, just Miscellaneous type 1, longer set times, blah, 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 blah. So starting from a dead stop, 1001, 1002, hold at the top, 1001, 1002, down, 2, 1001, 1002, hold at the bottom, squeeze up. Your calves will be screaming by the end of it. Honestly, the standing calf raise gets gastroc and soleus. Seated calf raise by bending the knee takes the gastroc out. I'll let Kassem explain the detailed anatomy of it. That's all you fucking need to know. Standing works both. Seated takes gastroc out, so it's more soleus dominant. The end. So first programming, whatever sets and reps. Like I said, I typically do sets of 6 to 8 on standing because it's a pretty long set, and trust me, that's all you need. Slightly higher on seated if you're going to do them. Just as a final story to wrap this up. Years ago, there's a guy in my gym who had the hardest time growing his calves. And I was talking to him about it. He goes, yeah, I think I'm going to try training my calves 6 days a week. And I said, let me take you through a workout. So I actually had him do a leg press calf raise with straight knees. 5 sets of 5. Heavy as fuck. Just like that. 2-second pause at the bottom. Explode. Squeeze. 1001. 1002. Pause. 2. Explode. 5 by 5. Took him to seated calf raise, 4 sets of 12 to 15, slow like I just described. So about 2 days later, he's like, oh my God, I've not been able to walk for 2 days because it's the first time he'd actually involved his calves in his training. And then he said, I think I'm going to try my way first and do 6 days a week instead because my way hurts. And it's easier to just bounce 6 days a week and accomplish jack fuck all. So try that at your next workout. So lower the weight about 20%, maybe more than that, depending on how much you bounce. Do it exactly like that for whatever repetition range. Gastroc, 6 to 8, 8 to 10. Or seated calf raise if you do it for Miscellaneous, 12 to 15. And then come back to the comment section and once again go, hey, Lyle, you were right. I love hearing it, and I am. See you next time. I know this one was a little longer than the last one, but a couple more things. This miscellaneous. One, the question will come up, what about, the whole thing turning your feet in and out to hit, the lateral, the outside part of the gastroc and the medial, the inside part of the gastroc? And the answer is yes, there was a study that showed that worked, and it was like 5% difference in either direction. Like if you keep your toes neutral, you'll hit them both. If I had someone who had, a distinct visible deficiency, I might focus on one or the other, but whatever, none of you do because you all have shitty calves anyway, so just do it with toes neutral and learn to do what I did first. The second question that always comes up is, well, does this 2-second pause idea apply to other muscle groups? And the answer is yes-ish, right? If you pause between repetitions before the concentric, it will always be harder. A pause bench press is harder than a touch and go bench press. Pausing at the bottom of a curl is harder than rebounding it out of the bottom like most dipshits do. However, it's not nearly as profound. The Achilles tendon is specifically designed to store and return energy in a way that other tendons are not. They still do, just not to nearly the same degree. Which is, again, why guys with skinny calves can bounce the stack. Guys with skinny arms cannot curl 225, right? It's not nearly as profound. Yeah, it'll never hurt for you to pause between repetitions and actually make your muscles work instead of training your ego and your dick and trying to impress your moron buddies. But the calves are simply a special case in this regards. And there is no other example, to my knowledge, in another species where a non-Achilles tendon has adapted to the same degree to increase movement efficiency. If it's out there, send me an email. That I want to hear about. But so far as I can tell, it's only in the Achilles for walking, jumping, running activities. So yes, this pausing between reps will never hurt in terms of involving the muscles you're trying to train, but it's not nearly as profound as in the calves. See you next time. Okay, unrelated to this video, let me remind everyone that through the month of December, you can use the coupon code MikeHasNoProCard at my store, store.bodyrecomposition.com, which you can see on the screen and in the notes. With that coupon code, you will get 15% off of any of my products. That includes my books, that includes consultations if you want me to tell you how to live your life. It will stack with the multi-product discount. It will not stack with any other coupon codes. Again, coupon code MikeHasNoProCard, 15% off everything at my store through December 31st. So get it while the getting is good. Finally, for the record, on these videos, I do not read comments. I do not respond to comments. I do not care about the comments. I don't care if they're good, bad. If you put a question, tough. I'll never see it and I'll never answer it. What you can do is send that question to me at questions@bodyrecomposition.com. But let me be straight. With 99.9% certainty, I won't open it, I won't read it, and I won't respond to it. If you want to get a response from me or some other smart person, join my Facebook group. There I'll answer questions, and my group has tons of brilliant people. But again, I don't care about comments on YouTube or Instagram or anywhere else. Hate me, like me, think I'm a moron. It's all good. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be right. And I am. That's all. See you next time.